I'm not in the presence of many fishermen if they got a quiet mouth like that. But that sounded a whole lot better. Thank y'all for being here today. I wish it was under different circumstances. The shrimping industry is the backbone of North Carolina seafood industry. Most people know that. If you don't know it, I just told you. And to eliminate trawling in the inner banks will effectively destroy the whole system. The industry will be gone. You won't be able to pull up anywhere and get you some shrimp like I did last Saturday. Come home with 2 great big bags. Gave them my wife. She said, "You want me to cook these tonight?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "I will right now." So, and they were good. I won't point out the person that gave them to me because I don't want to get him in trouble. But anyhow, the seafood industry, we don't need for it to be eliminated. We need the trawling to be protected in the inner banks. We put thousands of hard-working North Carolinians out of work if we allow this to happen, this to continue on. We're talking about generations of shrimpers, generations of fishermen. And I got to also say fisherwomen, right? Because the men who are fishermen can't go out in that boat in the morning unless the fisherwoman has cooked them some sausage and eggs. Is that right? I'm going to watch him all the time because he's steady, doing like this, talking about food. Yeah. But we're talking about generations of shrimpers who have done this their whole life. This is all they've done. And we have no right to take that away from them. That's true no matter what anybody says. Today we will hear from House members, shrimpers, and scientists who have a good handle on this subject. Now I'm going to get out of the way and let somebody else talk from here who is involved in this thing, even though he's not as tall as I am and as young as I am, Representative Frank Island.
Well, you got those 2 things right. Good morning. I'm going to update you on House Bill 442 and 441. You've heard lots of opinions and fake news. I'm going to give you some fact news about how this works, about the process that it went through. I'm going to speak mostly to the process where the bill's passed by large margins in the House and landing in a certain Senate committee. They were then hijacked for other purposes. Without the courtesy of consulting with the #1 primary sponsor, which is customary, that was Representative Isler, me, you can figure out who was complicit in this. House Bill 442, restore flounder red snapper season, passed 77 to 35 in the House, very bipartisan. Where it landed May 8th in the Senate Rules Committee almost 7 weeks ago, May 8th. Then the sharks got hold of it, euphemism, and added a provision that would put 75% of our shrimp industry and the impact of small businesses out of shrimp. People come to the coast for fresh shrimp. I was actually part of a food distribution company that actually had to sell frozen shrimp to the coast. I never did, but some of my colleagues did on the coast because the fresh shrimp was so rare. And they really are, but thank goodness we've got an industry. As much as I wanted a flounder season, which was in this bill, I urge everyone this year, which none last year, urge everyone to vote to oppose the bill every chance they get, whether it's in rules, not concur on the floor, or whatever. This was a compromise bill that hurt no one when it went over. And it comes back, it's hurt a lot of folks. House Bill 441, loggerhead turtle state saltwater reptile, passed 113 to nothing. It passed in 2019, 2021, 2023, and stalled in Senate Rules Committee. Interesting, isn't it? And it stalled this year for 7 weeks again, and it was hijacked and totally stripped out to put in another bill. It would tell shrimpers they have to pay, that they will pay them off, your taxes, I guess, will pay them off. We'll pay them off for a few years and tell them not to shrimp, then put them out of business, not just right away. We're used to the Senate acting this way, but not to this degree. At least I have not seen it to this degree. They can put in a clean bill, debate it, and see if it passes on the merits, not hijack House bills at the last minute and deny input or criticism for their actions. All the primary sponsors have removed their names from these bills. It's not my bill. They own it. And I urge about my bills, plural, and I urge the co-sponsors to quickly do the same thing. Secretary Troxler sent us an email, said he's responsible for agriculture and aquaculture, and he's vehemently opposed to anything like this. And I've got a colleague that wants to speak, Representative Pricey Harrison, and she's arrived.
Ms. Harrison sits on the other side of the aisle in the chamber. I know when you find that out, you say, well, what in the world are Republicans doing talking to her? Well, ever since I've been coming up here for right many years now, I don't mind talking to her. She doesn't mind talking to me. I think she's the most studious person that's in the building. Everybody's looking at me. You really believe that? Yes, I do. Well, she talks about some of the things that are in outer space, and sometimes we had to talk to her at this level on the ground and get her grounded and so she can go again. But listen to what Pricey has. She studies stuff a whole lot longer than most of us. Thank you, Pricey.
Thanks. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for including me. I represent Goodwin. So I represent Guilford County. You're wondering what I'm doing here talking about the coast, but I've spent a lot of my childhood on the coast and lived there post some DC law practice, and well, sort of fell in love with the coast, fell in love with watching the shrimp trawlers go down Taylor's Creek, and loved seeing the blessing of the fleet, that huge crowd of boats coming from to and from Harker's Island and Morehead City. And I'm very fond of the cultural heritage that is associated with men and women living off the sea. And I have, kind of as a result, been fighting these net bans for 30 years. And I call them net bans because that's basically what they've tried to do in other states, and the same efforts are ongoing here in North Carolina, including this trawling ban. So my background, which I think gives me some perspective, is I sat on the Duke and the Carolina Marine Sciences boards, talked a lot to the scientists there who had input and interest in this issue, and always convinced me that a ban was not necessary in North Carolina because of the way we manage fish. I also sat on the Coastal Resources Commission for many years and the Marine Fisheries Commission's Water Quality and Habitat Committee when we finally started thinking about environmental aspects of the fisheries and making it sustainable. So first and foremost, this is not an environmental issue. This is an allocation issue. And in fact, if we were focused on the environment and its impact on the sustainability of the fish, we'd be talking about water quality, we'd be talking about coastal development, we'd be talking about protecting our wetlands, restoring our buffers, instead of going in the opposite direction. And the big elephant in the room, the climate crisis, because it is raising the temperatures of the estuaries and the ocean, creating ocean acidification, and that is actually what's affecting the access to the fish the most. So I think that's a really important point because that's what I keep hearing. And I also wanted to say, sorry, I was scrawling out my notes before this started. So on this allocation issue, I will say quite frankly that the UN, this General Assembly is not equipped to handle these allocation issues. These are more suitably dealt with by the agencies. With the Fisheries Reform Act in 1997, we put together stakeholder committees. We have fishers, we have enviros, we have recreational, coastal scientists, agency folks. Those are ones that understand the issue, and those are ones that should be making these decisions. They shouldn't get up here where it's completely political. And I can't assert that strongly enough, because having stakeholder input is how you get to a good decision, not dropping a bomb on a bill that has hardly been considered and hasn't included the public that need to weigh in, and the stakeholders that were most impacted by this bill. So first, I want to debunk this 4-to-1 falsehood about the bycatch ratio. That is not the case at all. The individual who made that point has indicated since that he made that under pressure and that it wasn't based on fact. What is the fact is that the Marine Fisheries Commission has imposed 2 bycatch excluder devices, one for finfish and one for turtle. It has been almost 100% effective for the turtles, maybe 70% reduction in the bycatch. But I've actually been on a trawler, unlike most of my colleagues in the chamber, and I've seen the minimum amount of bycatch that has happened since these excluder devices have been added. And you've also, and want to debunk another fact, because I hear this from my colleagues who say this is a great bill, is that we're the only state that allows inshore trawling. That's not true. Other states have restored it, including South Carolina, Virginia, Georgia. But it's actually wrong to compare us to other coastal states because we've got more estuarine acreage than any other state in the United States. And I think that that is an important point that the scientists at Duke and Carolina kept enforcing to me, as this is emphasizing to me, because this is what distinguishes us from other states. So we've got millions of acreage of estuarine water that are ripe with fishing opportunities, and they have closed off. The Marine Fisheries agencies have, Department of Marine Fisheries and the Marine Fisheries Commission have closed off the most sensitive areas. So you can't access primary nursery areas. You can't access secondary nursery areas. You can't access sensitive submerged aquatic vegetation, which is important habitat. And so we've got the restrictions in place, and we've got a different situation here. And you see a lot of people here in this room who are making a living off the water, and we'll see a bunch more in the gallery. And that's what we can't lose here, is that we're looking at a very different situation. So, and also it's important to point out that the fleet's been drastically reduced. Since these restrictions have been put in place, we've gone down 85%, 24,000 trips to 3,600, 1,285 shrimp boats to 294 in the most recent accounting, and that's a significant decrease. So I feel obviously quite passionately about this. I'm probably as stressed as everyone in this room about what this means to them. So I just urge all of you listening to vote no on this bad bill. Thank you.
You know, when this many people get together and talk about something that is really pushing us and everything, you got to have a lawyer somewhere. So this lawyer has voluntarily volunteered to talk about something that is really disturbing him. I don't know what it is, but he's going to tell us.
Nobody likes a lawyer till you need one. Now, my name is Ted Davis, Jr. I represent House District 20, which is in New Hanover County. Without getting to the merits of either bill, I'm here because I am very upset about what happened to these two bills. Both of them passed the House. They went into the Senate without showing Representative Eiler the courtesy or the respect of letting him know what they were going to do, or myself, or Representative Goodwin, or Representative Kidwell when it came to House Bill 441. And that's not right. They should have come to us. They should have told us what they wanted to do. They wanted to see if we were okay with it. And if we were, we could have moved on together, but they didn't. And I can't hold to that. So that's why I'm here to show my support with Representative Eiler. Thank you.
Thank you. We got somebody to talk about science in the process. Ms. Dee Lupton, former Deputy Director, Division of Marine Fisheries. She's retired, but she's willing to work.
First, I want to thank everybody for inviting me today. I am Dee Lupton. I'm a lifelong resident of Pamlico County. I'm a marine biologist, and I did retire from the Division of Marine Fisheries. I do not represent them today. I'm not a member of either side, any advocacy group about at all, but I am concerned about what I've seen and the comments I've heard about the data and the process. So first, I am going to probably read my statements more. I am opposed to the amendment of House Bill 442. I do not support the elimination of inshore trawls. My objection is based on data, science, and process. In our country, there's an effort to reduce these types of additional regulations on the commercial fishing industry. The bill is an overregulation to the point of an elimination of an already heavily regulated industry that goes directly against a national effort. North Carolina shrimp fishery is one of the top commercial fisheries in North Carolina annually. The number of boats that participate and the number of trips these boats take actually have decreased over time. There's not that many boats out there. In 2002, there was 4.7 million pounds of shrimp. That's about $10 million in ex-vessel price. That's not the added value. It's below wholesale, actually, that the fishermen get from these shrimp. That was from 280 vessels that took 2,785 trips. Just 10 years ago, there was 416 vessels that took over 6,000 trips. So that shows a decrease in this industry that's already taken. Recreationally, there's been a lot of talk about, well, our fisheries are in a state that they can't, there's not enough fish and the anglers are leaving the state. That is not true. North Carolina ranks North Carolina and Florida and North Carolina, I'll put it in the right order, ranked first and second in total estimated fish caught recreationally and trips taken in 2022. This is directly from NOAA Fisheries data. Together, marine and recreational anglers in Florida and North Carolina caught almost more fish in total than the rest of the country combined. So our fisheries are vibrant, even with the regulations that are out there. I want to speak on the process and some of the data, the science, and the process. First, we can't be compared to other states. We're often compared to South Carolina and Virginia and other states along the south, especially southeast and Gulf. But we have the 1997 Fisheries Reform Act. The state does. It requires the adoption of fishery management plans. Those plans are for all commercially and recreationally significant fisheries. This is the law, so the state has to manage these fisheries. There's not a choice. That's already the law on the books. And in those plans, it includes conservation and management measures that will provide the greatest overall benefit to the state, particularly with the respect of food production, recreational opportunities, and protection of marine ecosystems. And these fish still have to be managed at a sustainable level. So the laws already protect these fish. Fishery management plans are already written to protect these fish. These other states don't have this type of law that requires this type of management to some of them may not even know the true status of their fish. And that's their state. That's fine for them. So you can't compare us to them because it's just a different system on how we manage. So, at times our fish are assigned a stock status, and that stock status may be different than another state, or that other state doesn't even have a stock status. So that's what's different. The data and science the data and science are in the fishery management plans, and that is what shapes the fishery management plans. And a wholesale shrimp trawl for inshore fishing has not been an adopted management. There's been 6 FMPs made, FMPs, amendments, revisions. There have been regulations in those FMPs that have restricted the shrimp, but a total ban inshore has not been made. The vast majority of North Carolina's inside waters are closed to trawling to reduce and protect juvenile and fish and crabs, to protect oyster reefs, nursery areas, submerged aquatic habitat, vegetation, and other critical habitat. So all that is taken into these management plans. So they are not out there dredging up SAV that juvenile fish are in. I do want to also address the 4-to-1 ratio, as Representative Harrison said. That is out there, and it continues to be out there. But those types of ratios cannot be broadly applied to North Carolina inshore fisheries because they don't consider geographical seasonality or North Carolina's current specific management requirements. And they also come from studies from the 1990s and 2000s. And some of them include for areas outside of North Carolina, or includes the entire southeast and Gulf Coast. And these were stated in the 2015 shrimp management plan that these ratios could actually overestimate bycatch. But they continue to be out there. North Carolina's been leading the way to require bycatch reduction in shrimp trawls. In 1992, North Carolina was the first state on the East Coast to require bycatch reduction devices, these are birds, in shrimp trawls. Also, turtle excluder devices are required. In 2015, the Marine Fisheries Commission asked for the further reduction of shrimp trawl bycatch by another 40%. So you got a TED in a shrimp trawl and a bycatch reduction device, and then they want more. So that first device reduces it by 30%. Then they want to add another 40%. So the research was done. It was determined that yes, another bycatch reduction device in these trawls can further reduce bycatch, and that was adopted in the plan. So right now, vessels have turtle excluder devices and 2 biological bycatch reduction devices. So North Carolina is the only fisheries agency, state or federal, that requires this much bycatch reduction in shrimp trawls. Last year, the Marine Fisheries Commission actually adopted another plan This is after I retired, so I don't know a lot about it, and it was supposed to focus on critical habitat and this particular submerged aquatic vegetation. And it was adopted last year, so more protection is out there. I will say I am a lifelong resident of Pamlico County too. If this ban goes through, it will have an impact on North Carolina's economy and Pamlico County's economy. Consumers won't have access to local shrimp. This will destroy livelihoods. I've heard things about, well, you can recoup those losses. Well, at least in Pamlico County, we don't have the infrastructure to recoup these losses. We are a very rural county. It'll affect welders and trucking and other support industries that support these industries. There are a lot of other smaller trawlers in the fisheries. They're not always the big ones you see out in the ocean, that they cannot safely operate in the ocean. If this passed, small trawlers such as those in Pamlico County will have to steam hours to the inlet. They'll have to either steam 55 miles this way or 42 miles this way to even get to the inlet. That costs money. That will get into their profit margin. So in conclusion, I would just say inside trawling and other commercial and recreational fishing can sustainably exist together. Fisheries management is complex, and the influences on stock health, size, and availability are not singular, and they need to be evaluated and managed through the prescribed process outlined in the 1997 Fisheries Reform Act by the agencies or commissions that were charged with that. There is no evidence that a wholesale ban on inshore trawling will improve fish stocks. Thank you. And I think next, you want me to get this?
I'll get it.
You got it.
So we won't get mixed up. We're going right down the line. Want somebody from the industry to step up and say something. I think he knows who he is. Glenn Skinner.
Thank you. All right, I'm Glenn Skinner. I'm a commercial fisherman myself, but also currently I'm the executive director of North Carolina Fisheries Association. You heard a lot kind of disputing the misinformation today. There's a lot of it out there, and that's why something like this deserves a deliberate process and good, cool heads, time for people to talk, educate each other. And as you heard Representative Eiler and others mention, they got no warning. Well, our industry got no warning. This is a calculated attack in our mind. We've been fighting this battle for years. We've had multiple lawsuits, multiple petitions for rulemaking. They've tried through the fishery management plan process to shut this down, and I believe the only reason they haven't shut it down is because the data's not there to support it. And of course, if you don't have the information to support what you're doing, you try something like this, quick, dirty, don't give people time to defend their livelihoods. And in my opinion, that's just what happened. And I can talk about the value of the shrimp fishery, the value of food production. We all know that. As citizens of this state, everybody should be alarmed at what happened to us last week. And I can tell you the House should not get into that. The Senate gave us 2 days to defend our livelihood from the time we saw it until they passed it. And no citizen in a democratic society should have to face that. So I think that's one of the key points that we need to drive home here. Legislation should be based on a need, not greed. And this one is not based on a need. If it was, they would have been able to defend it, and they would have walked it through the process from the beginning of the session like every other bill has. So I'd really like y'all to remember, we deserve better. We deserve a process. We deserve to be able to defend ourselves and educate people. Now, you have heard a whole lot about misinformation, and you're going to hear more about it in the media. The groups who support this trawl ban, like I say, they've been trying the same thing for years. Evidently, their information hasn't worked, so now they've gone to this dirty, quick tactic. And I can tell you, anybody who supports this trawl ban supports what happened last week. Either they were engaged in it and they were the reason it happened, or by default, they support it. And that tells you just what kind of people you're dealing with, in my opinion. So I'm not going to get into the weeds on the issue. I think really right now what we have to focus on is, as citizens, we deserve better, and our state can do better. And I've never been so ashamed of the Senate as I was last week. So I'll be happy to answer questions and do individual interviews at any point, but I'm going to leave it at that for right now. Thank you.
Next, coming up to talk for the waterman, Captain Majette. Is he here? He's not here, okay. Yeah. Well, I put John Millette in his place, Captain John Millette. If y'all don't know who this guy is, he's going to have to explain it to you. Very serious man, especially when it comes to fishing.
How y'all doing? My name is John Millette. I'm owner of Southern Breeze Seafood in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I am a lifelong commercial fisherman and also recreational fisherman as a charter boat captain. I promised myself when I came up here today, I would not speak on emotion. I would just do facts, and that's what I'm going to do my best to stick to. My grandmother used to tell me that the road to hell was paved with good intentions, and that's exactly what this bill is. It started with good intentions where finally you had recreational fishermen, commercial fishermen alike agreeing on one common goal. And of course, at the last minute, someone had to come in and screw it up. And they had to throw in this amendment at the last minute that threw everything in shambles and crushed it all, and that's why we're here today. The amendment that was added for the shrimp trawl ban is baseless, full of lies, false information, and will cripple a historic industry in North Carolina. A couple things I would do as facts. Trawling off North Carolina has been going on since 1917. That's 108 years. And it's still sustainable. The fishing is still good. There's still plenty of fish around, and shrimping is getting even better, even though the amount of shrimpers has gone down. If you've never been on the water or know nothing about shrimping, and you read what this amendment, it would almost make sense. But it doesn't have any context. And that's what I want to give y'all today is context to this. They say, first of all, that they want to close shrimp trawling to all inland waters in North Carolina. 90% of North Carolina's inland waters are already closed to trawling. That's a fact. Pamlico Sound is the second largest estuarine lagoon on the East Coast besides the Chesapeake Bay. 80 miles long, 20 miles wide, and it accounts for 75% of North Carolina's shrimp landings. They will close that, which will cripple everybody. They talk about how they just want to do what other states are doing, South Carolina, Virginia. That's comparing apples to oranges. Virginia doesn't have a viable shrimp fishery. They just started it just a few years ago when a few shrimp showed up out of the blue, so they had to put something on the books. South Carolina, the water is different. They have more mud flats. You can shrimp offshore there. You can't shrimp offshore in the ocean here more than half a mile because we have too many rocks, ledges. The topography in North Carolina is different. If you ever walk on the beach here and you see how we have so many shells and rocks on the beach, but you go down to Myrtle Beach or Charleston, you don't. That tells you how many rocks are off here. No shrimper is going to go there because they're going to tear up the gear. It doesn't make sense. Common sense is not common, and if you just really look at what they're trying to throw at you, it makes that more obvious than anything. I really would love to get on the whole bycatch thing, but that's going to start a hard argument. But I will tell you, the 4-to-1 ratio is absolutely false. Any shrimper that is going out, you're going to shrimp, not kill a bunch of fish. You make your money off of shrimping. We have these things called tri-nets. It's a little small net that you put off the side of the boat to sample what you're going to catch. If anybody shrimping was to sample and have a 1-to-1 ratio of shrimp to fish, they're not going to put the big nets in the water because it's not worth them going. No fisherman is in the business, no more than any other business on the planet, to work themselves out of a job. That's common sense. But that's what they're throwing at you. So make it make sense. Think about what they're throwing at you, and this should answer all of your questions with what's going on. And as far as the shrimp in North Carolina shrimp are coveted all up and down the East Coast, even into the Gulf, where they have plenty of shrimp as well. In my business alone, I sell shrimp in multiple states. People come ask for North Carolina shrimp specifically because of the quality of what we have with our brown shrimp fishery in the summer, which comes out of Pamlico Sound. The groups that want us to stop inshore trawling say, okay, well, the shrimp in the ocean are bigger. You get more money for them. That is true. You get a little bit more money for those shrimp. But anybody in business, again, common sense, you don't catch as many. You catch way more shrimp. More shrimp are landed in Pamlico Sound probably anywhere from 8 to 10 times the amount that's landed in the ocean, for only maybe on average about a 75-cent per pound difference. So you do the math of where the majority of the money's coming from. It's going to be inshore, so they're effectively going to crush you. And with the government and everybody pushing for more domestic food, whether it's beef, whether it's seafood, whether it's produce, that's what us as commercial fishermen give to the people of the U.S., the citizens of North Carolina, and the country as a whole. And this is taking that away from it, all from special interest groups that don't care about anybody but themselves. There's so many things I want to do, but I want to be good. I promise you I'll be good. So I'll close at this is, please say no to Bill 442. It had good intentions. It got railroaded with this amendment that was added onto it. It's flat out wrong. There's no other way around it. Please say no and do the right thing. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Celeste Carnes, because she knows a little bit about water. She lives along the water, to come up and say what she would like to say.
Thank you. Yes, it's Celeste Cairns. I represent District 13, which is Carteret and some of Craven County. Mostly what I want to say today is just how honored I am to represent these people. I want you to look around and see these folks. These people are hard-working North Carolinians. They don't have the time to come up here and fight these battles. And I want them to know that we are going to fight for them in the House. I have been here now, this is my 3rd year, so it's just my 2nd term. I kind of thought that perhaps I was no longer as naive as I was when I arrived. But I will say that what I witnessed last week in the Senate was horrifying. I watched the committee meeting. I watched the debate on the floor. I say debate. There was no debate. It was essentially shut down. I watched Senator Hannig, who I couldn't help but think about David and Goliath. But unfortunately, on that day, Goliath won, and it was shameful. I watched then as the Senate stripped a bill that had the coastal legislators primarily on and reinserted language. There was not a single word in the new bill that was like the original bill. But of course, the sponsors and the co-sponsor names remained. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it certainly was confusing to the people in our districts who then look at that bill when they're told that there's a problem and they see our names. They could have chosen a lot of different bills, but for some reason they chose that one. So I have spent a lot of the last few days being very angry, and I admit that. It's better to be angry than to be sad, because I will end up in tears. I have been in tears several times during this last week. But we're going to look at this in the House in a much more deliberate way, and I trust our leadership to do a great job with this, to look at it honestly and to hear open debate among all of our members. I appreciate Representative Harrison. She has been invaluable in this fight. And when you see people on the left and the right really at the two extremes politically banding together because it's so clear that this is an injustice, that should tell us all something. Thank you.
Now, the next one is a retired sheriff. He had to run away from where he lived and come up here and hide. So he's been here just as long as I have. Carson Smith.
Thank you, Representative. Thank y'all. I am Carson Smith. I represent District 16's Pender down at Topsail, and I've got the southern part of Onslow, which is Sneed's Ferry. So you can imagine it's a topic in my area. I come from a line, actually several generations of commercial fishermen. I did end up in law enforcement, so I kind of broke the line, but I grew up in it. It might be when I made my mind to get out of it. I don't know, it might be too hard for me. But let me just say this. if this gets to the fore, and I sincerely hope it does not, I hope that through leadership and working with other members that we just don't even bring this to the fore. It's so bad. But if it gets to the fore, it's not a vote to concur with a House bill the Senate made worse. It's a vote to completely shut down an industry in North Carolina. And I hear arguments that that's not the case, but it is. You've heard that. The captain told you what it is. Most of the inside area is already closed. And the part that's not closed, the sandy bottom, you've got the bycatch reduction that you do it. The industry has worked, sometimes had disagreement with, but the industry has worked with the Marine Fisheries Commission in this state to do everything we could to keep this industry going. It is not an exaggeration to say, and there's not, I don't know of any other time I've been up here that I took a vote that would completely close an entire industry down. And that's what this would do. You can't, Captain told you, you can't go a half a mile off. I know the southern coast, I don't know the northern coast quite as well, but you go a half a mile off Topsail Beach and you're in rock. Nobody's going to put their gear through rock. So it was kind of crafted to be, hey, we're not completely shutting it down. They can still go here, they can still go there. No, this entirely shuts it down. I know it's a little warm in here. I know there's a couple more want to speak, but thank you for being here. Thank y'all for being here too, because it makes a difference. And I appreciate the folks in the state kind of understanding that I was a recreational fisherman too. You said it, commercial and recreational. If I believed that doing this, we have to do this to save one, that'd be one thing. But we don't. If we don't do anything, commercial will fish, recreational fish. If we do this, just a recreational fish. So we got to stop it. Thank you, Representative Gould.
For your listening pleasure this morning, I have the man in the moment standing next to me. He is right here.
Step up.
I am standing.
This is Bobby Hannock from the Senate. I know that may sound strange. That may sound strange that we got a senator in here talking like that, but he's not my senator. He's one of my best friends.
Thank you, Representative Goodwin. And first, I want to thank all the people that are here, that are standing out there. Those people right there are what's making today happen. What I'm going to talk about is a little bit of the political process and how disgusting it was. I was on my way to Raleigh on Monday afternoon. I had a couple things to take care of, and I got a text message with a crazy amendment on it, out of left field. This amendment wasn't discussed with our caucus. This amendment was a calculated, precision move by a couple of leadership in the North Carolina Senate. As soon as I found out about this, I started an all action. Everybody get up here, we got to stop this. And in a matter of hours, there were people in this building fighting the good fight, and we've been fighting the good fight ever since. When I came to committee, prepared to talk about this issue, I was completely shut down. I was completely shut down by my own party and by my own leadership. Couple things you need to ask yourself. Why the rush? Well, I'm going to give you all a couple reasons why the rush. In 2022, we commissioned a study with the North Carolina Collaboratory, and that study was a comprehensive study of our entire fishery in the state of North Carolina. Well, that study's complete, and they're bringing those results to the General Assembly in a matter of days. Why do you think the rush is to get out ahead of that study being produced? The reason for that is they know what's in that study, and they know the condition of our fisheries, and they know the false narrative they've been pushing for decades. The CCA and the Wildlife Federation have been pushing against the state of North Carolina. They've been pushing it for decades. They know the truth's going to come out. So their objective is to get this done before that comes out. No other way to put it. It's underhanded. It's backroom, sleazy politics at its absolute worst. Last week, I was ashamed to be a member of the North Carolina General Assembly. I've never thought in any of my days, as many members have stated to me, past members, People that haven't been here for years have contacted me and said they could not believe that something like this was happening in this great state of North Carolina. This is not the entire North Carolina Senate. This is a couple people in the Senate that are pushing an agenda pushed by money, influence, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't elected for those folks. I was elected for you folks and all those folks out there. Pamlico County I had for 4 years, they're my people. Hyde County I had for 4 years, they're my people. I care about these people. I love many of them. This is important to the state of North Carolina. You've heard all the data, you've heard all, I'm not going to go through that. But what I will not tolerate in any circumstance is what happened this week to the citizens of the state of North Carolina. It's unacceptable. We can't stand for it. And if we in the North Carolina Senate don't take a stand against this type of activity, then we're no better than they are. And we have to take that stand, and we have to be strong together, and we have to band together to stop this legislation. It's bad legislation. Everybody knows why, and everybody knows it. So I could go on for days about this. Last night was no different than last week. Several amendments, a couple good ones, a couple maybe a little far out there, but getting the narrative out there. And we're going to continue that narrative, and we're not going to let this happen to us in North Carolina. So thank you for your time, thank you for being here, and thank those folks right out there. Those folks right out there.
All right, stay with me. We got two more. Representative Phil Shepherd.
Thank you. I appreciate you all being here today. It's a great opportunity, I think, for us to come and discuss what's going on in our state. First of all, I want to say my grandmother's family settled in southern part of Onslow County, Stump Sound as we called it, in the early 1700s. They've always fished. They had oyster gardens. They farmed. They did whatever they could do to make a living. Sometimes they did both, and I know people that do both. And there's some of the hardest working people in the state of North Carolina, those people along the coast. And I just want to thank all of them for being here. I supported the first bill because it was the right thing to do. Representative Aller and others' bill, that when it came up, I spoke on behalf of it because I felt like we should open up the flounder season for people to be able to catch more flounder because they're there. So it was the right thing to do. But when the bill came back from the Senate, it pretty much decimated the good bill that we sent over. There's no way I can support the bill as it is because it's not the right thing to do. The statistics don't prove what they're trying to say to us. It's amazing to me that we're here at the last part of the session and we probably don't have a budget that we can agree on yet, but we can pull something out of the air and put a bill together that will disseminate the fishermen and the shrimpers along the coast. So it's not the right thing to do now. So I will not support it as it is. And once again, I thank all of you for being here. I thank all of you hardworking people that took time off today to come to Raleigh and to share with us. And I appreciate all that you do. This will not only affect them, it will also affect your restaurants that you go in to eat. And on down the line, it will affect everybody that's involved in this state that contribute to helping the shrimpers in our state. And listen, I can tell you one thing. I was born down east. I know the difference in a local shrimp than one that comes from Thailand or China. And I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
This great big man wants to talk one more time.
A great big man over here might want to talk too.
He's going to talk last.
All right. Just two or three things is kind of icing on the cake, I guess. And I want to thank the people out there again. These groups that seems to be supporting this, I'm not going to name any, but I've got their emails too. And it seems like they're raising money on this. And I wonder where that money goes. I'm not going to say, but just have to use your imagination of where that money might go. But it won't come to me. I'm pretty sure about that. And that's okay. I mean, I get small donations from the people. I don't worry about that. Another thing, I got a call 2 days ago from Sammy Varnum. Some of y'all might know him. He builds docks and stuff. He's in Varnum Town. There's a connection there. His family has tramped out of there, and they park their boats there, and then they go out for 5 generations. 5. And, was he upset? And now another thing, I was ambushed 15 years ago by a lobbyist, information in a committee when I was in the minority party. I was ambushed by a lobbyist 15 years ago. I've never forgotten it. This is worse.
Is there still a Captain Majette in the house? Midget?
We never found him.
Midget, never found him.
He's lost at sea.
All right, next one up is this monster that my partner over here referred to.
Good morning. If you think the room wasn't full of hot air already, I'm here.
If you need it, his name is Keith Kidwell.
Yeah. So
Send you
Representative Keith Kidwell, representing Beaufort, Hyde, Dare, and Pamlico counties, which you can tell encompasses almost all the shrimp fishing in North Carolina. The people in my district for generations have relied on shrimping and fishing for their livelihoods. Names like Majette, Daniels, Creech, Cahoon. These are the folks that live down east and been fishing these waters for years. Gentleman said back to like 1912. Well, these fishing families go back 200 and 300 years, not just to 1912. It's not a career, it's a way of life. Let's talk about the economy in eastern North Carolina. Hyde County, one of the smallest populated counties in the state. 20% of the people who live in Hyde County make their living off shrimping or related to shrimping, not fishing, shrimping. The county manager tells me the county itself would be in financial peril if this bill were to pass. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't think this is a momentous occasion of the people that have come together here today, you can see what's out here. What you didn't realize is Representative Keith Kidwell and Pricey Harrison are on the same side of an issue. It has to be wrong. That takes a miracle right there. Folks, we don't flip a switch on an industry, because if we do it on shrimping, what do we do it on next? We're going to shut down the dry cleaners? We're going to shut down the gas stations? Are we going to shut down the people who go to work every day making an honest living because some branch of the government finally decides in some slimy backroom deal that they don't want to do this anymore? Well, by God, down east, we didn't ask them what they want to do. We want to fish. We want to do what the North Carolina Constitution says. We want to have the fruits of our labors. We're not going to stand and take this. There's a reason they put me up here last. Back when I was in high school, I recovered a fumble. Only time I ever scored a touchdown in my life, because I was on defense. But I recovered a fumble, and I just started running for the goal line because I didn't know what else to do. Defensive tackles, we don't use the football. We eat the guy that has it. So I take off for the goal line, and I feel people getting all over me. And I got across the goal line, and the coach came out after I scored the only touchdown in my life and said, "Kidwell, you carried the whole damn offensive team across the goal line on your back." Ladies and gentlemen, that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to take the entire team, and we're going across the line, and we're going to spike this bill. And we're going to drive a stake through its heart so it's dead, because as you've noticed many times in this building, bills are like Freddy Krueger bills. Once you think they're dead, they come back to life. This one's going to die a swift, painful death. Or we're going to die trying. The people you see behind me are the people that are going to fight this. We've spoken to our leadership, who clearly has more sense than the other side, to not shut down an entire industry in North Carolina, while we're waiting for the very report that this General Assembly commissioned to tell us what we should do. Did they get a heads up and find out that maybe they're wrong? And that's why they're trying to rush it across before the report gets here? There's something dirty going on, people. I don't know what it is, I don't know why it is, but I can tell you this: we don't like it. We don't like it, they don't like it. And we're not going to allow it to happen. This is our stand. This is where the House of Representatives is going to take back its rightful position in the General Assembly. We are named the representative of the people for a reason. And I can tell you, I've gotten literally thousands of emails, phone calls, text messages. a minuscule percent of those have said, we like this bill. The vast majority are like, no. Please don't kill our livelihood, our families. We rely on this to pay our mortgages, our rent, and yes, our taxes. We have regulated this industry nearly to death. Beaufort County had 11 fish processing houses back in the early 90s. We now have 2. Not because the fish aren't there, ladies and gentlemen. Because the jobs aren't there, because we regulate them out of business. 3 years ago, I stood on the floor of the House with the Let It Spawn bill, and a gentleman told me, one of the Republican representatives said, you can't catch a fish in the Pamlico River and Pamlico Sound. And I said, Representative, stood on the floor, Representative, if you can't catch a fish in my river, in my sound, don't blame my fish because you're a poor fisherman. I went that weekend, we went 3 people on the boat, we put 66 fish in the boat in 3 hours, and I sent him a picture of every one of them. Just saw him 2 days ago, and I asked him, I said, have you learned how to fish yet? He's no longer here, and I'm grateful for that, actually. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to fight this. We're going to stop this. We're going to stop 442 and 441. Interestingly enough, I want you to go back and look at 441. All of the primary sponsors on 441 have removed themselves from the bill. I'm not sure that bill can actually now move forward without a primary sponsor. I believe it's going to have to be killed, or they're going to have to find somebody in the House to be the primary on that. And I'm going to beg everybody in this General Assembly, all of my friends in the House and my enemies, don't sponsor a bill that's going to kill an industry that supports the East Coast of North Carolina and mainly my district. I'm not going to let it happen. I appreciate you all coming out here today. I appreciate the support of my fellow members. And we're going to make sure that this gets stopped, and it's going to get stopped today. Thank you all for coming out.
I'm sweating. I want to leave. I know y'all are. So thank you for being here.
Maybe Representative Kittle can respond. Can you respond? Okay, 441, the Senate, I mean, to play devil's advocate, the Senate said it was an honest attempt to provide some, to make good some of what they would be taking away from the shrimping industry.
The only thing they can do to make good what they're trying to do is don't do it. It's a slap in the face to our fishermen. It's a minuscule amount of money that is an insult to their integrity. These people don't want to live on welfare from the government. They want to work. Let them work.
Bring them out to woodwork now.
On that issue, I've been told by good authority, if it's even close, that might be worth $20,000 a year. And then at the end of the 4 years, or whatever, I think it's 4 years, what then? They hope the industry's all gone. So it doesn't say in the bill. And that 441 doesn't even take effect unless 442 passes, if you read at the bottom of each section. So it's very cleverly done, but it's gone as far as I'm concerned.
Thank y'all for coming. We appreciate it. We're sorry for this hot room.